What's up, guys?
Back at it with another video
From the Backups.
This video is dedicated to a couple defensemen through the 2000s in hockey that really just couldn't get their shit together. Like Dion Phaneuf.
Touching the puck in the zone as well.
Got hit by Rutu.
Now he comes back. Sorry, but we know what happened there.
And Dennis Weidman.
Weidman's got great moves too. I like the way he goes in. Here he comes. Dennis Weidman. Fakes it in. He got knocked down by the goaltender. Actually, he just lost his balance.
But anyways, today's video is going to be about the 2000s All Decades Team for the NHL. Now this is part of a bigger series where we go through all the decades, 2010 all the way down to the 1960s, and we make the All Decades Team. Now we did that same thing with the NBA, so make sure to check all those out. And yeah, you want to get into it?
Yeah, let's
First
jump
forward.
into it. First forward, we got Jaromir Ginla for Calgary Flames.
Yep.
Iggy was the leading goal scorer of the 2000s and finished second in points for the decade. Three-time 90-point scorer. He also led the decade in game-winning goals with 58. And finished the decade with one Art Ross, and 2 Rocket Richard trophies for the Flames as a 4-time All-Star. So Ginla, he was a great power forward throughout the decade. He didn't quite get the championship, but he got there in 2004 against the Lightning, and he was just super consistent and a great leader on the ice.
Yeah, definitely deserving to be on here.
Definitely. Moving on down.
Next forward, a guy very dear to my heart, Joe Thornton, Jumbo Joe. He played on the Bruins and then he played on the Sharks. He was the decade's leading scorer by 99 points, as well as the league's best passer, notching 133 more helpers than the second finisher. So he kind of dominated. He was the only player to get traded during a season in which he won an Art Ross trophy, which is pretty interesting. That's
with 2 different teams in 2005.
Yeah, that's crazy, and he's the only
2006.
And he's the 3rd player in NHL history to record back-to-back 90 assist seasons behind Gretzky and Lemieux.
Jumbo Joe was hands down really just the best passer, and he was one of those players that in the big trade that happened, the 3-player trade to Boston. Right away, everyone thought it was a steal, and really, essentially it was, because Joe Thornton brings something that the Sharks needed. I mean, it wasn't for a cup, but he brought that centerman leadership. Yeah, he still has a chance, but over the years, he was a great leader and a great centerman for the team. Yeah.
3rd and final forward, we got Pavel Datsyuk for the Red Wings.
The Datsyukian Devil.
The Russian. Also referred to as the Magic Man. He was one, or if not the most complete player in the decade. Even though he was a forward, he was really amazing on defense too. Scoring nearly a point per game and having the 2nd best plus minus, while being the best defensive forward basically of the decade. He got 3 straight Selke trophies and 2 Stanley Cups.
Yeah.
So he put in a lot of good years for the Red Wings.
Definitely. He was, the way that he moved on the ice and the way that he could elude players and not take penalty minutes really made him one of the most valuable players in the decade, in my opinion. And I think even people kind of overlook him just because he didn't have all the points, but averaging just over a point per game. With the defensive side he brought, he was just one of the most entertaining players to watch for the decade, for sure, if not the most entertaining.
Yeah, definitely. And then
moving on down to defense.
Going down to D, we got Nicholas Lindstrom for the Red Wings.
Also
winning 6 of the 9 Norris trophies of the decade. So
hands down the best.
Basically got to be the fucking defenseman on the All Decades team if you do that. His 550 points and plus minus of 235 led all D-men in the decade.
Yeah.
And he led the He led the decade in playoff points and he took home 2 Stanley Cups, you know,
Yeah.
and
Lindstrom,
1 Conn Smythe.
Really, there's nothing you can debate.
Yeah.
8-time All-Star. He was great, and without him being on the Red Wings team, they wouldn't have been able to have that long playoff run success that they had.
Yeah, for sure. He was the backbone.
Yeah, he was the rock in the back end, holding down for it.
Yeah, second D-man.
We got Scott Niedermayer.
Niedermayer.
Played with New Jersey and Anaheim, finishing the decade 4th in points and the most game-winning goals among D-men in the decade. Niedermayer was the Bobby Orr of the 2000s. He's that, offensive defenseman, kind of like the Erik Karlsson of the 2000s. You could say it like that as well. He earned 1 Norris Trophy and 2 cups with New Jersey and 1 with Anaheim, so 3 total in the decade, along with a Conn Smythe in 2007 as a 4-time All-Star.
Wow.
For me, I think he was solidified in there just for the fact that he won with 2 different teams, and he was an important part on those teams. So to see him win in New Jersey, move to Anaheim to play with his brother Rob and win a Stanley Cup, he definitely deserved a spot on the team.
Finally, we got the goalie.
Martin Brodeur,
of
from
course.
the New Jersey Devils. What else can you say? His 358 wins was 67 more than the second place finisher, and his 49 playoff wins also led the decade. So he's winning regular season and in the playoffs. He won 4 Vezina trophies in the decade. No other goalie won more than 1, so obviously it should be him.
Yeah, that
And he backed the Devils to winning the Cup in 2000 and 2003 as a 5-time All-Star. So Brodeur easily solidified himself into that goalie spot for the 2000s.
we got a couple of honorable mentions. First, Jaromir Jagr. And, he was a little bit more of a 90s player.
Yeah.
I mean,
He was still pretty solid in putting up good points. He was in his 30s, throughout the 2000s. But really, he was still a consistent, point scorer, scoring over a point a game. So he was still a great player, just not quite the caliber that we thought.
Yeah. And then Hossa, too, is another guy. Marian Hossa, you can't forget.
Yeah, moved around a bit in the decade, but he right at 2010 he was able to catch his cup after chasing from Detroit to Pittsburgh and flip-flopping those years.
For a lot of teams.
He was playing for a lot of teams, but anyways, we also had Chris Pronger on defense, probably the most badass player on this list. With the hits and all the enforcing he did with St. Louis, a little bit of Edmonton, Anaheim and Philly, he was a very, very good defenseman that just barely missed the list.
And then we got Luongo.
Roberto Luongo last, just barely missing. He was
the captain.
Playing at the beginning of the decade with Florida, and then at the end of the decade with Vancouver, which was really his prime. I think that was really his prime. The end of the 2000s was really where he shined. But yeah, that's really wrapping up our whole list.
Our 2000s All Decades teams.
Yeah,
for the NHL.
Definitely.
Make sure to check out the 2010s and make sure to, look out for, the 90s, the 80s. We're going to keep pumping those out. Same thing with the NBA.
Definitely.
If you liked this video, if you thought, if you liked our list, make sure to hit that like button.
Thumbs up.
If you thought we left anybody off, make sure to comment down below. Let us know what we fucked up on.
Also, remember to hit that fucking subscribe button. And don't forget the bell. You want to be notified every time we motherfucking post. Peace out.
Dude, that was